1973, with a name similar to that of a bird, with a very powerful V8 engine, one of the GT families, was designed in Australia, with a peak speed exceeding 120 miles per hour. What kind of car do you think it is? Stay tuned to find out what the answer is. Here are the fastest Ford muscle cars in company history. Starting at number 10, we have the... Before we proceed with the car, here is one interesting fact about this car you don't know. This car was a super rare V8 powered pony car only sold in South Africa. Fascinating, right? And the car we are talking about is no other car than the 1971 Ford Capri Perana. I am sure you weren't expecting that. When it was introduced in 1971, the Capri Perana V8 was thought to be among the quickest sports vehicles on the African continent. They were produced by a South African automobile manufacturer in Johannesburg that was formerly owned by a Formula One technician. Essentially, the vehicle was built by swapping a large 5.0-liter Mustang V8 engine with a Ford Capri 300 XL Mk1. To construct this extremely fast Ford muscle vehicle, additional components were added, such as an aluminum intake manifold and high-performance air cleaner. Remember our question in the beginning of the video? Let's see if you got the answer correct. At number 9, we have the 1973 Ford Falcon GT. Performance was the primary objective of the Falcon GT, one of the first Ford vehicles designed in Australia. Although it was only produced for 2 years, from 1972 to 1973, the Ford Falcon GT is still incredibly underappreciated despite its remarkable performance, which won many people over. A naturally aspirated V8 engine producing around 380 pound-feet of torque and 300 horsepower provided the power. This aided in the vehicle's acceleration from down under to 60 miles per hour in just over 6 seconds, with a peak speed exceeding 120 miles per hour. This is a car you should look out for and purchase if you are a fan of Ford fast cars. Here at number 8, we have the 1970 Ford Torino GT Cobra 429. Ford also manufactured the Torino, an additional muscle vehicle in addition to the Mustang. Though the 1970 Ford Torino GT adhered to a more angular and massive design philosophy than the Mustang, it possessed power commensurate with its stature. A number of engine choices were available for the 70 Torino GT, the most powerful of which was the 7.0-liter Super Cobra Jet 429 V8, which produced an incredible 460 pound-feet of torque and 375 horsepower. The top trim level of the 1970 Ford Torino GT was able to compete with vehicles such as the Dodge Charger and the Chevrolet Chevelle because of its power. The enormous Super Cobra Jet engine of the Torino could accelerate to a peak speed of 136 miles per hour while traveling straight ahead. It could also accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 6.6 seconds, more than fulfilling its intended function of outpacing its competitors who make muscle cars. At number 7, we have the 1994 Ford Mustang GT SVT Cobra. Even though this decade isn't as well known as those that came before it, Ford was still producing some of the greatest muscle vehicles available in the 1990s. Ford was unable to create performance vehicles like the Torino GT due to stricter emissions and safety requirements, but it was still able to create the 94 Mustang GT SVT Cobra, which is among the most unappreciated Mustangs. The engine of the 1994 Mustang GT SVT Cobra is a 5-liter V8 that produces 240 horsepower and 285 pound-feet of torque. This engine is naturally smaller than the one seen in previous Ford Mustang models. With a smaller engine, the remarkably sporty SVT Cobra model is nonetheless just as powerful, reaching a peak speed of 137 miles per hour. A 1994 Ford Mustang GT Cobra may now be purchased at an average second-hand price of about $8,000. Now that we are down with 5 cars, let's talk about the most recent ones. Here at number 6, we have the 2020 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500. The 2020 Mustang Shelby GT500, which was created to mimic the influence the original '67 GT500 had on the muscle car culture, is the most current model to be included on the list. Many critics praise the 20 Mustang Shelby GT500 for its amazing handling and lightning-fast speeds. With a 5.2-liter V8 supercharger under the hood, this vehicle is the most powerful production Mustang ever. With an impressive 760 horsepower and 625 pound-feet of torque, this engine outperforms the top-tier 2024 Mustang Dark Horse by a wide margin. Though it couldn't match the highest speed of the last 2 cars on the list, the 20 GT500 can still attain a peak speed of 180 miles per hour since it was designed to be a track monster. This particular Mustang is a beast. At number 5, we have the 2016 Ford Mustang GT350. The 2016 Mustang GT350, which is built on the S550 chassis, is the first Ford muscle vehicle from the 2010s to be included on the list. In an extremely competitive decade, the GT350 managed to stand out and became an instant hit when it was brought back to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Mustang. With its 5.2-liter V8 engine producing 526 horsepower and 429 pound-feet of torque, the 16 GT350 is more than capable of making one of the most exhilarating muscle cars ever made. Naturally, there are some equally amazing speeds associated with this kind of power. With a peak speed of 174 miles per hour, the 17 GT350 is fast enough to compete with other European sports cars of the same era, including the 16 Porsche 718. The sixth-generation Mustang has just recently come to an end, and this was the ideal performance vehicle to launch it. Coming in at number 4, we have the 2003 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra. Ford set the standard of Mustang performance once more in the early 2000s, channeling the essence of the automobiles of the early 1960s that helped establish the moniker as one of the most recognizable vehicles ever. Moving away from the less potent engines of the 1980s and 1990s, the 2003 Mustang SVT Cobra served as a prototype for the vehicles that rank higher on the list. The power rose from the 1980s to the 1990s, producing 390 horsepower and equivalent torque per pound-foot, while being equipped with a smaller 4.6-liter DOHC V8 engine. The 2003 Mustang SVT Cobra achieves a high speed of 175 miles per hour when the 155 mile per hour government limitation is removed, despite the fact that these fourth-generation Mustangs weren't nearly as light as the Fox bodies. At number 3, we have the 2024 Ford Mustang Dark Horse Premium. Similar to a vintage Mach 1 Mustang, the most recent 7th-generation Mustang is called Dark Horse. With the 5-liter Coyote V8 engine in this configuration, 500 horsepower is produced cleanly, or 100 horsepower per liter. The Dark Horse is referred to by Ford as the horse you didn't see coming. For their classic coupe, Mustang last used a distinctive name badge for the bullet in 2001. This is far less expensive than the GT500, with a 0 to 60 speed of 3.7 seconds, yet it has almost the same performance. It may be the quickest automobile Ford produces in 2024, and is a great sports vehicle overall. Supercharged Dark Horse is another option. Coming in at number 2, we have the 2010 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500. 10 years before the debut of the 2020 GT500, Ford introduced the 2010 Mustang Shelby GT500, which was part of the 5th S197 iteration of the brand. The 2010 model year saw a redesign of the Mustang, with the GT500 bearing Carroll Shelby's name and sporting all the latest inside technology along with some amazing performance. A 5.4-liter supercharged V8 engine with 510 pound-feet of torque and 540 horsepower is included in this model year. The 10 Mustang Shelby GT500 could continue to climb to a high speed of 190 miles per hour since it lacks the aerodynamics of the 2020 model. This would make it the ideal vehicle to start what would be an incredible decade for the Mustang. Finally, at number 1, we have the 2006 Ford GT. In honor of the Blue Oval Centennial, Ford intended to develop the mid-engine supercar and initially unveiled the GT40 concept during the 2002 North American International Auto Show in Detroit. Resurrecting the record-breaking victor of 4 straight Le Mans 24-hour races in the 1960s, received such a strong response from the public that the manufacturer chose to produce a small number of them. That car is the 2006 Ford GT. Depending on demand, Ford intended to produce about 1,500 units each year for 2 or 3 years. With a 6-speed manual transmission, 550 horsepower, and the ability to reach speeds up to 3 times the state legal maximum, the 2-seat GT is an exotic vehicle in every way except price, though its $150,000 suggested retail price puts it in an exclusive company.